history actually shows us that when a dictator comes in and takes over a country, the first thing they do is they burn the books. And the reason they burn the books is because they're trying to take out the culture and take out the memories of the people so that people forget who they are and they forget what their country stands for. Well, we create our country. I mean, we make up America or wherever you're from. And we have so many people right now who are in an identity crisis, or there's like a epidemic of people hurting right now, and we're giving them hope through our stories because we've come out on the other side of healing.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back. It's a Matter of Speaking, a podcast for leading voices in the industries of health, wealth, and relationships. I'm your host, Dylan. Today, episode 44, we're speaking with Missy Maxwell Worton. She's a multi-award-winning, top-selling author, speaker, and coach. As an author, she writes across various media platforms. We talk about film, television, multiple magazines. Her book, Don't Mess with This Mama, a true story of rescuing her adopted daughter from slavery, is currently in the pre-production stages for film. Alongside her husband, Mark, she is the founder and president of Light Warrior Publishing and Warrior Writing Training Program, where she mentors women on how to write and release their message for kingdom impact. She believes women can be one of the strongest voices for justice to impact, influence, and transform the culture around them through authenticity. She was recently awarded the Woman of Distinction Award by She Leads America, Tennessee, for her impact in publishing. Missy is a mother of 4 powerful children and lives in Franklin, Tennessee with her husband of 34 years and their 2 German shepherds. She is such a light. It was such a fun podcast. You will be learning a bunch. Really, what I talk about towards the end is it having a warrior theme, encouraging yourself, encouraging others, how to work through fear, just the simple techniques to work through your own fears, whether it's writing, whether it's starting your business. And then how to stand for yourself, find identity in writing, and then express your identity, and then give that to someone else that could see themselves through your book. It really is inspirational and it's educational. So a little bit of both. And I'm always fun. If you think so, if you like this stuff, as always, make sure you like and subscribing below. Drop a comment what you're learning of today's podcast. And as always, this podcast is brought to you by Leader. That's our company. Over the last 8 years, we have perfected the message to help you get your authentic message out to the world. And then if you choose, scale it into business and profit on the back end. We have helped clients now land over 700 TEDx talks. I am officially one of them. My TEDx talk will be performed this week when you're hearing it. So wish me luck. We've helped thousands of other people get their talks on virtual and physical stages worldwide. We also help people start and authentically scale their business offer on the back end. If you got a message in your heart, if you got a mastery in your mind, you want to learn more about us and how we help people, there is a link in the description below. It's a free webinar. Feel free to check it out. You could watch it and never talk to us again, but you might learn something. And we might be the tribe that gets to help you get your message out there. But let's dive into Missy and her story. Let's kick it over to me. Welcome back to a Matter of Speaking podcast. It's an interesting number for my guest today. This is episode 44, and we are here with Missy Maxwell Worton. Missy, thanks for joining us.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me, Dylan.
It's taken a bit. First, I tracked you down, and then you tracked me down. We finally made it work.
Busy people.
You and I have a similar background, too. We're going to be talking about self-publishing and then true publishing and then you starting a publishing company. You and I both write books. We love to get our message out there. I start all these with the question of like, you're a leading voice, not only for yourself, you're helping hundreds of women be leading voices for themselves and their message. What does it mean to you to be a leading voice?
Man, that's a great question because I think it means that your voice is one that encourages others
Mm.
to become the best version of themselves. And I always say, I'll walk beside you and I'll partner with you on your vision. Then I walk in front of you to show you the way that you can go. But then I walk behind you to push you forward out of your comfort zone to step into what they're called to do. So I think it's encouraging
Yeah, it's kinda like being a sheepdog at all times. You're in front of
at
them,
all times.
you're next to them, then you're behind them. Does it take time for you to kinda it's gotta be this intuitive feel of when do they need someone walking in front, when do they need someone walking next to them? Do you just tend to know what people need in the moment?
You do. I mean, once you come into agreement with them as far as what you understand they want their vision of what they want their book to look like, and what they want their calling to look like, what
Mhm.
they believe they're called to do, then I can easily come in and I use that to say, okay, this is going away from your calling. So let's get back on the right path. So it's fun, but intuitiveness definitely steps in.
It's
Definitely.
if that doesn't show the power of communication though, to, like, get to know someone and their deep desire
Yes,
first, because then it gives you the permission to know when to step in, right?
absolutely.
And,
Mhm.
you probably get this, like you said, it's a voice to encourage. When you put yourself out there, you then have to kinda hold yourself to that standard, right?
Yeah.
Now, you do books, which everyone would now say I literally just got done talking about storytelling to elementary school kids today,
Yay.
and anytime you're an author, it's like, "Oh, you're a creative." So the
Mhm.
question all creatives get, right? Have you always been a creative?
I have. Even
Mm,
as a child, I would make up stories, and when MTV started, I saw the beginning of MTV. Then all of a sudden, all my stories and all my movies had music, and so I would sit there and create as a
mm.
child. I loved it. I loved to create this world that had a great ending.
Yeah. Now, when you were creating, were you just creating the stories in your head? Were you actually writing them? Like, where in this journey were you inspired to be a writer?
Uh, it was early on in writing class.
Mm,
I loved creative writing, and I would always write and hand in my work, and I loved creating, and I would always get back from a lot of my teachers, "You are so creative," and I love every time I get your work
mm,
because I'm enthralled. You capture me.
mm.
And so I knew I had something there that came with me when I got here.
Okay, so at a young age, you're getting this re-encouragement of like, man, you're a good writer, man. And then for you to become serious with it, right? Was that did you start working on your first books when you were a kid? Did it come later in life?
Well, okay, so that's interesting because there was, in 8th grade, I'll never forget it, there was a teacher who handed me back a piece of work that I thought, "Man, this is ready for a literary award. I mean, this is beautiful." And she handed it to me and said, "I hope you never become a writer because your grammar is atrocious."
Ooh.
And I just was like, okay, and for me, that meant I wasn't a good writer, and it
Mm,
also cut me off in other areas, so I never wanted to be a book writer because of that one statement. So for 40 years, I battled with the fact I didn't write books, but somebody told me, "You can write movies and television because you have that ability to see
mm,
story." So but before I got my book, let me just say this, when I before I wrote my book, I had a lot of people coming to me. One was a Howie Klausner. He's a movie director, publisher,
mhm,
no production. He has a production company, and he asked me to write the book, not the movie. And I said, "Well, I write movies." And he said,
mm.
"No, you're going to write the book." And I said, "I don't write books." He said, "Who tell you don't? Who told you you don't write
My
books?"
eighth grade teacher.
Yeah. And I said, "My teacher, my 8th grade teacher told me." And he said, "Why?" And I said, "'Cause I have atrocious grammar." And he just started laughing. He said, "Girl, that's why we have editors. That is why we have editors. Just create.
Mm.
We need your gift in the area of storytelling." So it freed me up and I just started writing.
It's so cool. I literally, as I talk with kids about the power of storytelling, it's one of the big questions I'll ask is like, what are your fears? Like, who here wants to be an author and everyone's all excited to share, and then why? And then who here's scared of writing, or who here doesn't, and why? And the first one will be like, typically, what if I spell something wrong? And then what if people don't know what I'm saying? And then they won't like my message.
Yeah,
That stuff sticks with us
it does.
40 years.
40 years.
So,
40 years I dealt with it.
and in that time, though, I just want to make sure I'm getting this. In that time, you were still leaning into writing, still leaning into
Mhm,
creating. It was
mhm.
just for film.
Right. Film and television, that's all I did.
And then this guy pulls you back in because obviously him bringing this up is big, but you
Yeah.
also have an interesting backstory with your daughter when it comes to this.
Mhm.
Please, if you don't mind, if I
Well,
ask.
no, that was my first book, and the reason we had so many production companies, movie production companies coming to us is because we rescued our 6-year-old adopted daughter from going into child enslavement. And it's a story of we were the last plane out of Dulles International Airport before Hurricane Sandy slammed into the East Coast. So we flew through a hurricane basically,
Wow.
to land in our own type of storm in Ethiopia. So
Mm,
that was the story. So we had to go into hiding. We had some really bad guys trying to take her because she's a beautiful girl. Her
mhm,
name's Favor, and a lot of people wanted her, but we knew it was for the wrong reasons.
mhm,
And so we fought and we stayed. We had to go into hiding. Um, and we hid out in the middle of a radical Islamic area. So we saw a lot of things that, with Benghazi had just happened. This was
mm.
2012. So Benghazi had just happened. And here we are in a compound that has wire all around it, and we're surrounded. But they couldn't find us. So we had to go into hiding. And so when we came back, it was on the news, everything. The Congresswoman, our senator, everybody was trying to get us over because they were getting ready to throw us into a third world prison.
Oh,
And so we had everybody fighting on our behalf. So when we finally landed back in America, we had tons of people saying, "We want to make your movie," and when that happened, I recognized, well, okay. When Howie came up to me, he said, "No, I'm going to write your movie," because he's a well-known screenplay writer.
mm,
He's written Reagan, he's written Soul Surfer, he's written a lot of great movies out there. And when he said, "No, you're going to write the book," and
wow.
that it broke me though. It I recognized I can write this. I can
Yeah.
write this story because I saw the importance of exposing human traffic,
Mhm.
but how human traffic is actually working in the foster care system.
Now, okay, so if you don't mind, that's first off, Sudden You Love, that's an incredible story. I can see why you wrote a book about it. So you went over there at first, trip to Ethiopia to
Right.
adopt this girl. You get
Mhm.
over there and you realize you're almost in like this adoption war with other people, and they clearly want favor for different reasons. So you
Right,
stay there to basically fight for your rights to bring her home,
right.
win, and that's when you come back and you get all this attention. Like you brought
Yeah,
her back. Wow.
yeah, because it was on the news, it was everywhere, and, they had us, walking up from coming off the airplane, because we'd rescued Favor, and, it was a pretty big deal. So but we were going up against a federal court judge there who wanted her, so if that tells you anything. So they were ready to throw us in a third world prison.
I
We had to do a rescue mission to get her.
I know the fears of being thrown in a, third world prison, firsthand. It's scary stuff. You're like,
It's
"Am I ever
scary.
gonna" So, if you don't mind me asking this question, because that's kind of a memoir, it's a tough story. There's a lot that goes behind it, and you're afraid of your grammar. How do you overcome the fear that's associated with not just writing a book? Because some people will write nonfiction. You're writing your story, right?
Yeah.
How do you overcome your fear to be able to get the story out to the world?
Man, I had to dig deep in recognizing, first of all, I had to answer my why.
Mm,
Why was this book important? And who was my audience and what did I want to achieve by writing this book? And once I solidified what my whys were, um, that's what I held on to. I just went straight ahead into writing it. I just let it out,
mhm.
wrote it in 90 days. I had the book finished. And so we got it to an editor, and she couldn't believe it because she thought I had bad grammar,
Mm,
and it wasn't that bad when she when
mm.
she worked on it. But I guess I had a tough grammar teacher. I don't know.
40 years in the making to get better at it.
I know. Yeah, that could be it.
So
But it's those things that people needed to hear what I had to say. I saw the children that were being trafficked. That's what. pushed me forward.
Now, I don't have to get into the deep whys and the depths. Obviously, knowing that there's kids out there
Yeah,
going through it, that's a big one. But you said you kept it in front of you. I
yeah.
think this is one of those things that like people hear it and they're like, "Oh yeah, keep your whys in front of you." I would really like to go into the hows of it though, because I think when people listen to this, it's like I never want someone to be like, "Oh yeah, she can do it, but not me." What did you do? How did you specifically keep your why in front of you on a regular basis?
Oh man, I that's a good question. I wrote down three major whys that I have for writing this book
Mm,
because if one failed one day, then at least I had two backups.
mm, mm,
I also had the picture of favor in front of me,
mm.
knowing that if we had not accomplished this and come home with her, and of course I'm giving away the end of the book, but if we hadn't accomplished it, she would have died. So
Mm.
we knew she had died. The person that was trying to get her, every single child had ended up dead or missing. So
Gosh, and I think one with that, you're a warrior. We're gonna get to that in a
yeah,
second. Obviously, goes to your publishing company. The importance of keeping totems, keeping pictures, keeping words in front of you. I know at my work desk, I have 2 or 3 totems that if I look at them, it almost drops you back into that why. And then
yeah,
another thing that you said is having multiple, right? You have 3 things written out, so you
right,
read one and it just doesn't seem to land, read the next.
right, yeah.
Okay, and now you go from how long ago was that, if you don't mind me asking? You said Benghazi
That
2012?
yeah, that was well, I actually the actual event took place in 2012,
Okay,
but it did not come to fruition till 2020.
okay,
So there was some fear in releasing the book because there was so many horrible people that
mhm,
we had to fight against. So they've got power in a
yeah,
lot of places.
and you hit bestseller status, if I'm not gonna
Yeah,
give away the ending, I'm sorry, but you hit bestseller status, congrats to you, and now in
thank
the
you.
last 5 years, you go from debuting this book to now helping hundreds of women get their message out. So, where does that shift happen in the process? Are you writing
I
more
know.
books? Are people asking you about it?
So
How does that
I
journey
I know I'm having a hard time getting my books written,
happen?
but I love that. I love it. No, what happened is the publisher really felt strongly that I needed to put it in some awards. So they helped me get it into a few awards. They decided to put it into 10. Out of those 10, every single one came back either as a winner or a runner up.
Mm,
So people start, and you're like, whoa, that's awesome. But I really believe that's because I know how to write story. I know
mhm,
how to write film and television. So I put that into the book. I wrote the book that way, like a movie.
mm,
And people started approaching me and saying, I've always felt I have a book. And I'm like, well, sure, let's meet over lunch. And I clearly saw that it did not take just lunch to teach a person everything they needed
let me write
to
that
know
down.
about getting a book out. So the more and more people approached me, I decided, okay, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to do like a 5 day challenge. Did 5 days for 1 hour teaching them the foundations.
Mhm,
And at the end of it, they're like, how do we keep working with you? I, I'm thinking, you want to work with me? And they just wanted me to be there for them through the journey of writing the book. So I created an offer, and everybody took it that was in the challenge, except for two people, because it costs money. Some
mhm,
people don't have the finances,
mhm,
and or they're not ready.
yeah.
So that's what I learned. So,
How do you deal with, again, everyone got it but 2, and I think a lot of people could hear that and be like, "Wow, that's amazing," and then other people hear it and be like, "Whoa, 2 people tell you no." How do you now? Because you and I are working
yeah.
on your offer. How do you deal with the no's?
Well, I try to dig into what the real no is.
Mm,
What is the root of your no? Is it fear that you don't think you'll stick to it,
mhm,
but you'll spend all this money and you'll not get it done? Or
mm,
is it fear that you really don't want the world to know your story?
mm,
Or fear that what you have isn't good enough for a book? Who would buy it? Who would read it? And the reality is it is good enough.
yeah.
And we can make it even better to put out there and start changing people's lives. So I recognize there are some people that will never be ready and their books still aren't written.
It's one of the questions I have, but to kind of go back real quick, knowing that your story could mean something to someone. I remember I recently went to a golf outing for a friend of ours that passed, and all of our friends from our high school come to the golf outing. And afterwards, we went out to a buddy's bonfire, and I had this
Yeah.
upperclassman come up to me, and I was always scared of him because he was the cool kid growing up. And he's like, "Dylan, how have you been?" We start talking. He goes, "I want to let you know I read your book, man. I talk about it with my kids all the time."
Wow. Huge.
That win, that's so worth it of like, that can
It's huge.
exist long after me. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Now,
Mhm.
you said, I think there's really something interesting here for anyone trying to start a business. You started off by getting it out there, right? You walk
Yeah.
the talk first. Then it started through referrals. People are like,
Mhm.
"Hey, heard you did this. Could you help me?" Then
Mhm.
you leaned it into lunch dates, but then it leaned into a 5-day challenge. So it's kind of like
Right.
this small group share value. And
Yeah.
then from that and you love doing it. And that 5-day
Absolutely.
value then led to your offer.
Right.
Super interesting of anybody looking to try to get their message out to the world. Like that's
Mhm.
such an like a easy step-by-step blueprint. Who is it? Like, would you say that tends to come to you for help to get their message out to the world?
Well, it is mostly my clients are women that are 30 years old and above.
Mhm.
So they've lived a story, they have a story there where they've either had a divorce, they've had tragedy happen, they've had trauma happen. But I would say I have women there in their 30s. I have one woman that's in her 70s. So that's my range right there. And they're ready to tell their story
Mm.
and they're ready to heal from it. And they've gotten revelation that what they've walked through was actually can be used for their good and it can help other people.
I think tell their story and heal from their story is awesome
Right.
because it is therapy to get it out on like this is my and then to see how it can impact others.
Yeah.
It's funny you say you have someone in their 70s. There was a kid today when I was asking them, what is it that you love about writing a book or being an author one day? And they're like, the book will be here even after I'm dead. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's funny. And there's so much truth to that.
Right. Mhm.
And I would be remiss as a businessman myself if I didn't do some plug here. How do people find you? You're a woman 30 and up. You have a story. You want to get it out. How do people find Missy Maxwell Worton?
They can go to exactly how my name is written, MissyMaxwellWharton.com. And that's how you can find me.
Okay.
It's really easy. And you can find me on TikTok. You can find me on Facebook by the same name.
Say Missy Maxwell Worton.
Missy Maxwell Wharton on Facebook and on and Instagram. I'm Light Warrior 528 on TikTok. I just started it, so watch out.
Yes.
You'll
We're
see all
so
that fast.
excited. We're so excited for that organic traffic. Okay, so people come, they work with you. Maybe someone listening is like, I would love to work with this lady. She seems very relatable. What do you think if you were prepping someone or from what you've seen with your clients, what's the biggest hurdle? What's like that first big hurdle someone has when it comes? They've said yes to writing the book. What do you
Right,
think
right.
is that first or next big hurdle?
The biggest I there's a lot of different types of hurdles. The
Hmm.
first one is overcoming all the fears
Hmm.
that you had. Will anybody buy it? Is what I'm saying strong enough? Are people going to make fun of me? What if they think I'm an idiot,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's real. And then there's the moments of healing that come. Those are the hurdles where you're starting to write and you're thinking, do I really want to face this again? And I teach a different way to write trauma because I don't want you to relive your trauma, but you can go up to it and the emotions that happen after it, we can work off that. And in that they get healing. So that's one of the biggest things. They get writer's block right before they're getting ready to write about the trauma
Mm.
every time. And they also get writer's block when they're trying to write for millions of people because the reality is you're writing to one person who's sitting across from you and you're just having a conversation just like you and I are.
Hmm.
And that is one of the greatest things I've used to tell people the way you write is the way you would talk to a friend because it's only one person holding
Hmm.
your book at a time reading it. You're not reading to a million that are got your book up there. So that's one of the biggest hurdles is
So
how they write in blocks.
dealing with fear and then dealing
Mhm.
with the hurdles because they're coming up against some trauma during the writing. And you said during the writing, like you're coming up against, let's say, a traumatic memory. What do you have people do? You have people kind of look at it from a different angle, or what's kind of the process?
Yeah. Yeah, in writing trauma, I mean, one first thing, I always let them know if you are going into that area that you know could trigger you
Hmm.
and it's a deep wound, I want you to call us so we can be here for you. First of all, I don't want you to be alone in this journey. Second, don't relive the actual trauma. So I do tick okay, so I'll use an example. I
Hmm.
won't use her name,
Okay.
but she was raped pretty viciously.
Hmm.
And so we wrote it all the way up to her recognizing that she was cornered and she had made a bad decision and she couldn't get out of the room. She was trapped.
Hmm.
And And so we cut it right as he reached out
Mm,
for her.
mm,
So we didn't need to know what happened.
mhm,
Then we came back not telling, her feeling like what had she done wrong, because that was her story,
mm,
that she felt like she had made a bad mistake by
yeah.
trusting this person or whatever the situation was. So we trying to, because there is such a thing as secondhand trauma,
Mhm.
and so we don't want to give that to all of our readers by, giving every detail. A crash is different than something that's a personal assault.
Yeah.
So
And I don't think anyone wants to go into that memory, but there's that message around it is what I'm hearing. Come up
it
to the edge.
is,
Now, the second thing that you said is the one that I'm really interested in is like dealing with that initial fear, right? So let's say there's someone out there, they're right on the edge, like I should get my story out to the world, but they don't feel qualified or they're nervous that, what are people going to think? I mean, imagine just like your story matters is one thing, but what is it you have to say to that person who's dealing with the fear, doesn't feel qualified?
yeah. I didn't think I was qualified to write
Mhm.
because of what I've been told. I had false, I just had a false truth spoken to me. But I am, and you're the only one that is qualified to tell your true
Mm.
story in an authentic way. And your life makes you qualified to tell the story. Again, a great editor can clean up everything around that is bad grammar or spelling. I don't hit A's on that one either. But if you believe in your story and it is a path for healing and encouraging to help people be transformed, you are qualified.
Yeah.
You are definitely qualified.
And you have a unique way of looking at this. Why do you feel we're living in the such a beautiful time in history to be able to get your message out to the world? Like, why do you think it's so important this time of history?
Well, okay, first of all, history. If history actually shows us that when a dictator comes in and takes over a country, the first thing they do is they burn the books.
Mhm.
And the reason they burn the books is because they're trying to take out the culture and take out the memories of the people so that people forget who they are and they forget what their country stands for. Well, we create our country. I mean,
Mm,
we make up America
mm,
or wherever you're from. And we have so many people right now who are in an identity crisis, or there's like a
mm.
epidemic of people hurting right now, and we're giving them hope through our stories because we've come out on the other side of healing, and they're looking for answers. They're not finding them in the normal vices that they have used, and maybe they weren't raised in the best situation, and so they're coming out of just a life of trauma, and we don't see the abuse they walk through, but and maybe they just don't feel seen.
Mm.
And what happens is when you write your book and they relate to a part that you're talking about, a memory, a thought that you're having, they see themselves in you and they feel heard and they feel seen because of your book. And when you specifically write a true story, I'll just say that. They see themselves in that true story and
Mm.
they learn through story, not through list or preaching or anything like that, but through authentic story that all of us go through things that are hard. All of us make mistakes. And if we choose, we can learn through them. If we can start learning through the mistakes and we can be the victor and not the victim. So story is the only thing that will help people
Yeah.
come out of that victim mentality, because all of a sudden they see someone else that decided, I'm not going to be the victim here.
Mm.
I'm going to rise above what happened to me, what this person did to me. And now I'm going to be a better person and a stronger person because I've been fortified with trials.
Yeah.
And they feel seen.
You're preaching to the choir here when it's like the power of story, right? But the things
Oh,
that I was writing down is like not only do you find yourself through writing your story because you are like you're unweaving all that tangled yarn. You find
yeah,
yourself, you express yourself, and
yeah,
then it's almost like you pass that torch on to someone else that can see themselves in you and in your story. And they're
right.
like, "Hey, if he or if she is courageous enough to put this out there, one, so can I. Two, I'm not alone. I'm not the only person going through this."
Mm-hmm.
And I will be the testament on the other side of true story. I
Yeah,
also find myself in fiction characters all the time. And I think it's such a fun way to learn through like a
yeah.
third degree of separation.
Mm-hmm.
Like someone creates a character and like lets you live in that character rather than through me.
Yeah.
Now, you've turned all this into a beautiful, beautiful business. You have had so much success. Like, bow to you on how well you're doing in such a short period of time since I've known you. So huge, huge, huge kudos.
Thank you.
But to the business builders out there, what has been, the hardest part of building your business? And if you could let us know the name again, that would be awesome.
Well, my teaching, my training is called Warrior Writers Training,
Love the name.
but then my publishing company is Light Warrior Publishing.
Mm,
So those are the two. But I think when I really think about the hardest thing is actually getting people to believe in themselves and recognize their own value.
mm,
I think that would be the hardest thing, and I had to start with me.
yeah.
I had to start with me because I didn't value what I was giving to others. And so once I started valuing myself and what I carry and how I help people actually become award winning authors and become top selling authors, then I started seeing things differently. And as soon as I got it, my people started getting it.
Yeah.
So my ladies are starting to get it. But the hardest thing is the belief systems we have in ourselves. We have to conquer those first, and we have to literally help others know that we're in this to help them pull things out. But a lot of times they don't see how valuable their story is. And that's been the hardest thing, is getting people to believe in their story.
I mean, I love that we put Light Warrior in it because it is, you almost have to go to battle for them when they're not believing in themselves. And maybe that leads to the easy second question of what's the most enjoyable part, winning those battles, or is it something else?
Oh man, it is seeing these women confidently. Like they come to me, housewives and moms that they just still have their hair up in the bun and they
Mhm.
just life nobody sees them, and all of a sudden they get a book written, they start releasing it, gets awards, and I see them confidently step into the highest callings that they have as a person, and all this wisdom that they have been carrying and raising all these children and not being seen. Now they are pouring that out into other people through story, and people love them, and they're getting calls, they're calling me excited saying, oh my gosh, this person I don't even know called me and said my book changed their life.
Mm.
Like, that's what I'm talking about.
It's
That nothing
intoxicating.
beats that.
Yeah, it's intoxicating. And to have someone like you in their corner, I mean, I remember even talking to you, you're going to these events, these speaking events, and you're finding your clients. I think you're telling me it was like 5, 10 clients, like a speaking opportunity or a PR
Yeah.
opportunity. It's like you're constantly putting yourself in the fire for your clients. I think it's so cool.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And
I
big,
believe in them.
what?
I believe in them. That's the thing. When I see their vision, I see their story, I see where they belong.
Mm.
And so even sometimes they don't see it, I'm pushing them towards that what they are, because that's what's there that I see.
And for you, would you say, I always like to know as you're coming through, what's been the biggest learning experience you've had when it comes to building your own business?
Ah, wow. As far as my what's been the hardest thing, I think I kind of tipped on that just a little bit, is being okay. I stepping out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
I mean, you all put a lot of things in us, and you teach us,
Hmm.
and your guidance, just me shutting down everything I've done before because it didn't work,
Hmm.
and shutting that down and focusing on what you're asking us to do. I will tell you, 5 out of 10 times, it's uncomfortable.
Hmm.
It's uncomfortable to do something different.
Hmm.
And but stepping out the way you've asked us to and getting out of that comfort zone has been the hardest thing in doing it. And I'll say one other thing that's hard. It's hard to see people give up on themselves.
Hmm.
It really is.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's almost like is stepping outside your comfort zone then worth it to not let others do that? And I
Yeah.
mean, being a client, being like a student of the game, now approaching 6 figures, if not past it, and we're not even at a year mark. Like it is a testament to you consistently, like hearing the call and accepting it. Now, this leads us to the uncomfort zone.
Oh,
Everyone has this part, but uh, you not only have got out, like just talking about that, getting outside your comfort zone when we're asking. You too. You've
Mhm.
got outside your comfort zone to start this business. You've got
Right.
outside this comfort zone to get this very tough book out, your story out to the world. Why do you consistently decide to get outside your comfort zone?
Well, I just remember my father. He would always say, "Missy, if you aren't where you wanna be and you keep doing the same things, and you're never gonna get a different outcome."
Mm.
And that in fact, that is the description of insanity.
Yeah.
And so this program challenges me to push
Mm.
through my fears. It challenges me to push through my false beliefs,
Mhm.
to see what I really can do when I am willing to learn and um,
Yeah.
and change how I've done things to try something different. It may not always work, but what do we got to lose?
Yeah.
And so every time I've listened and I've stepped forward, I'm not stepping forward in confidence. Let me just tell you that. I'm stepping forth in trepidation,
Mm. Yeah.
but I'm seeing it
Yeah.
every time work out. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to swallow hard and just say this.
And it's almost like, hey, if I don't like where I'm at and I keep doing the things, I'm not going to get to where I want. Definition of insanity. So almost using that as that counter force of, well, I
Uh,
definitely don't want to keep experiencing this. So I will
Right.
step forward scared as hell. Now, my goal is this podcast, every single person this podcast reaches goes, yeah, you know what? It's time for me to get outside the comfort zone and do what I've always wanted to do. That's probably not going to be every single person. Why
Yeah.
do you think most people don't? If we were to take our ego hat off, why do you think most people don't get outside their
Oh,
comfort zone?
absolutely fear.
Mm.
I mean, it's false evidence appearing
Hmm.
real. It's about worrying about what people will think about you.
Hmm.
And the reality is they're not thinking about you.
Hmm. I love when I get like I've got that answer now. I mean, it's been 44. I've probably got
Yeah.
that answer almost 10 times. I
Yeah.
love it. Good.
Yeah.
Hear it from so many people that after a while you're like, "Oh, fuck. Okay, I got to get outside. It's going to be scary and I'm going to do it." What
Yeah.
would your like if you were to give one piece of advice, last question, for someone that's on the precipice, getting
Right.
ready to get outside that comfort zone, maybe like one toe in and that they're not fully jumping in, what would be that first step or that first piece of encouragement you'd give them?
All right. Here's what I would say. Action delayed is greatness betrayed. And when you see what you gave up because it was uncomfortable to step out of your comfort zone, you'll see the betrayal of not living your life full out. And I think one of the saddest things that I do see is to people looking back on their life and seeing what they missed out, what could have been, and
Yeah.
the people that were never touched because you were too comfortable to step into an uncomfortable position. The people you didn't help, the people you didn't, their lives weren't changed because they didn't get to read your book, um, because of your comfort. So my thing is live full out,
Mm.
fully enjoy your life, and anytime fear comes up, I I I disagree with fear 100%. I mean, I recognize fear is there,
Mhm.
but okay, I'm a believer,
Mhm.
so I do read the Bible,
Mhm.
and 365 times in the Bible it says, "Do not fear of some kind." But the
Mm.
reality is, there is no fear. It doesn't come from from God. It
Mhm.
it is not. It's a
Mhm.
dark place.
Mhm.
So I always look at it like, no, not today.
I
I'm
I
going to do it anyway.
all of this, and again, thank you so much, Missy, for being a part of this podcast. It was such a pleasure talking with you. And the one thing that keeps resonating for me is warrior, right? Not only is that your company, and that's how make sure you look it up. You can find Missy. You also go to MissyMaxwellWorton.com. Check her out on social platforms. But not only is that the name of your publishing company, it's what you do not only for yourself, but for other people. Some clear
Yeah,
takeaways that I got today is be a voice to encourage. And when you step out, know that you can help other people. Walk beside them, walk in front of them, walk behind them, be that sheepdog for them, but consistently overcoming fear in ways that you do it, keeping your whys in front of you. Having multiple. If one's not landing, we can lean someplace else, right? Be ready to face these obstacles again and again. And sometimes we can just come up to the edge of it and then be able to teach that lesson through it, because when you stand up for yourself, you stand up for other people, you start to see what's possible for not only yourself but for other people. Last thing being, I love that little phrase, action delayed is greatness betrayed. I was on a podcast recently and I told them my biggest fear is dying with regret. Like I would
yeah,
hate that feeling. And I think sometimes even talking about that that
Mhm.
person out there is like, dude, don't put this on me.
Yeah,
But I'm willing to go to battle and at least put this in the mind of like, I don't want this for someone.
right.
And if that means something for you, then let's lean in. So I hope there is at least 6 people that listen to this and they're like, you know what? I got to reach out to Missy, or I got to get my message out to the world. I really like it. And if that is you, one, make sure you're liking and subscribing. Make sure you're
Yeah.
commenting. If you have questions, ask Missy some questions. She'll get back to you. I had such a great time. Missy Maxwell Worton, thank you so much for being a part of the podcast.
Ah, thank you, Dylan. Thank you for all you do.
Not a problem. And if
You are a star.
anyone tuning in, we will see you in the next episode, episode 45 of A Matter of Speaking, a podcast for leading voices. You all take care, and we'll talk to you soon.